I was in the company of my ex-fiance's daughter when I noticed that things weren't going smoothly between her and her auntie. When she came for the weekend, I took her for a ride and started questioning her about what was going on. I noticed the signs, but I needed her to tell me for certain. Before we continue with the story, do not forget to click on the notification button in order to get notified at every new video posted. Thank you. Cassie was just 12 years old, but she appeared physically bigger than her age. Early puberty had made the little girl look so curvy. She had also grown very tall. Despite all this, she was still full of innocence and was a very smart kid. She had lost her mom due to a heart attack, and since her father and I met, she became very fond of my daughter since they were both the same age, and she also drew close to me. I treated her the same way I did with my own baby, and I was always ready to defend her. Her father was a very busy man and mostly worked out of town, so when I had time, she would spend the weekend at my house, but she was mostly living with her father's younger sister, who had become her legal caretaker since the death of her mother. She broke down and told me her aunt's husband would touch her as well as his own daughter when she stayed there, and she told her auntie. But it just made her angry, more to the fact that her aunt never believed her. She gave me details of how it happened each time. Her aunt was asleep or away for work. When I made her tell her dad, he accused her of lying. I told him he needed to believe his daughter. Then, the aunt's husband eventually made the mistake of writing her a letter and giving it to her in front of my daughter. We had evidence. I forced my ex to press charges, and it made things ugly in his family. Eventually, I told the state's attorney to drop a plea bargain and take it to trial. The little girl and I had already discussed it, and she said as long as I was there and didn't leave her side, she was ready to appear in court. 2 months had gone by, and yet my fiancé refused to pick my calls or even talk to me. When I went to his place, I pleaded as much as I could, yet he paid no attention to me. At some point, I began to think about the kind of person I fell in love with many years ago, and whom I almost was about to marry. A man who deliberately refused to protect and defend his own daughter against such evil act. How will he act towards our own future kids? This thought lingered in my mind for days, and yet I decided to talk to him and get his reasons for behaving the way he did. Maybe he had his reasons, and I could not draw conclusions because he knew his sister's husband better than I did. When I succeeded in getting to him on the phone, I asked if we could meet and try to talk things out. The only thing he said was, drop the charges if you want us to move on with the relationship and the wedding. Then he hung up. It sounded like a big joke to me, so I decided to call back, but he wasn't picking up. After several attempts, I understood that he was serious about what he had just said, and I stopped calling. My parents and friends were all wondering why we had decided to put our wedding preparations on hold, but I just told them that it was a common agreement between us. For close to a week, I felt depressed and locked up myself in the house and turned my phone off. This was the person I spent 5 years of my life with, someone who knew me so well and whom I thought I knew too. I started wondering if Cassie's case was worth my relationship, if all the stories she had been telling me were true, if I was not just ruining everything for no good reason. The thoughts went on and on until the day I heard a knock on the door. The person insisted, but I stayed silent until a voice cried out, "Alex, it's me, Cassie, please, help me." I rushed out of bed and looking through the window, I saw the poor little girl standing out there in the cold with fear written all over her face. I quickly ran to the door and opened up. On seeing me, she fell in my arms, and then I noticed that her dress was torn. I quickly placed her on the sofa, got a blanket and covered her, then made a hot cup of milk, which I handed to her, but her hands were too shaky to hold the cup properly. I asked her what happened, and she said her aunt's husband tried to touch her again, but she managed to escape. I was so furious that I left her in the house, hurriedly got dressed and rushed to my fiancé's house to have a talk with him. Upon arriving, the main door was open. As I entered, he seemed to be talking with someone, and I carefully hid myself in the corridor to hear the discussion. It was his sister's husband, threatening him to stop me from dragging him to court. If not, he would reveal his secret. A secret? What secret? Speak up, because I already called the police and they are on your way. What are you doing here? My fiancé stammered. Start talking. I overheard everything. What is he threatening you about that will make you sacrifice your own daughter? I pulled some strings for him to be where he is today as far as his cargo company is concerned, and he owes me a lot. If not, he might go to jail for a non-settled business of the amount of 10 million. What? I shouted. Is that true, Jaden? My fiancé was silent, and I understood that it was all true. I felt disgusted. Thank God the trial was soon to hold. I went with Cassie to court as I had promised her. Adam was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Jaden, my fiancé, reported himself to the police and was sentenced for a 2-month imprisonment for being an accomplice and for fake financial records with a fine of 12 million to pay. He tried to beg for forgiveness, but his daughter insisted on not wanting to see him again. Cassie is now under my care, and I don't know if I'll be able to forgive Jaden one day.